Hello, everyone. My name is François Candelon. I lead the think tank of the BCG, and I'm very pleased to be with you today. So, we had a big and overheated debate when we prepared for this panel with the gentleman here, discussing about what and how should we interpret the word infrastructure. And Youssef, you're the VP of Information Technology at Saudi Aramco, and you told us you need to spend a significant amount of time on the tech infrastructure. So, why were you thinking that it's so critical to spend time on that?
First of all, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be with my finance panelists here, and thank you for the question. It's really timely. And why would I say timely? We've been in the digital journey for some time. I think we're about time to move from development stage into putting this artificial intelligence in use. But before I answer the question why it's critical, let's define the infrastructure. Data, as all you know, is the center of AI technology. It's data and algorithm. But data by itself will never give you results. You need tools, a pipe, to bring the data from the field into this data repository. You need computing power to process this data through the AI. And similarly, you need the network connectivity to deliver the services to the end consumers anywhere, anytime around the world. So let's talk about network connectivity. And this is where the vary comes, depends on your business. If you are in a sophisticated, well-established community, that would be less critical. But if you are like us in oil and gas, in Aramco, where we operate oil wells around the kingdom, gas around the kingdom, then you need to pay more attention to lay down the right connectivity infrastructure that will guarantee you that data will continue flowing from the fields into the data. Computing is vital, but I would say it's less vital than network connectivity. However, we have to pay attention that computing power today, either in the central processing facilities in the data centers or in the digital edge computing, will serve you today. But I guarantee you that will not serve you down the road when the AI becomes more complex, requires more power. So as a CIOs, we have to pay attention to the future, partner with the right partners to be an early adopter of technologies like quantum computing and whatever the future is going to bring into the computing area.
And we might discuss this a bit later. But Jean-Luc, you were thinking or telling us, yeah, but we need to go, connectivity is critical, the tech infrastructure is critical, but you wanted to add an S to infrastructure in saying that you need to invest in several infrastructure. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yes, and thank you for inviting me. As Youssef said, it's important for the data to go somewhere, so that's for sure. The physical infrastructure, technical infrastructure is important. I think we need to think of multiple infrastructure that stack together in order to achieve the digital transformation everybody is seeking. So there is technical infrastructure, but there's also important the people infrastructure. Right? You need to understand what infrastructure you have to support the talent that you have in place or to upskill the one that you want to bring. We need to think also of the process infrastructure because the digital transformation is fundamentally a change of behavior. Therefore, change management is going to be very important. So by stacking the technical, by stacking the software part, which is part of the technical, stacking the people and the process, I think that's how you achieve the goal that we're all seeking.
So is everyone okay with the scope we've defined? So the need to go on connectivity, but to think about additional infrastructure. Is there any additional comment?
No.
No comment from the panelists. So maybe, Adrian, you're the strategic growth director at BAE Systems Digital Intelligence, and you had a very interesting study with many leaders showing the way that better understanding the AI infrastructures was a way for them to unlock the power of AI.
That's right. So at BAE Systems, we've been looking at how we can use AI to enable digital transformation. And one of the studies that we did a survey of key decision makers across high trust sectors to understand exactly what they saw as the key challenges. Over 90% reported that they were facing some quite key challenges in being able to achieve the digital transformation they were looking for. And of that, nearly 70% cited their inability to derive actionable intelligence from their data and take action on that data. So what we've been doing is showing how you can use AI techniques to enable that actionable intelligence to be derived and therefore enable some of that digital transformation to take place. And I think it's quite important to think about how can we apply AI to today's problems, such as these transformation challenges, rather than just thinking about what we might be doing in the future.
No, that's good. So let's try now to spend a bit of time on the tech infrastructure, and we will come back to the people and of this a bit later. So on the tech infrastructure, Debanjan, you're the interim CEO of DataRobot. So I wanted to ask you, how do you see the different layers of the tech stack and the tech infrastructure evolve, and what is the most exciting in your opinion?
That's right. So, I actually think in terms of people using the infrastructure. If you think about who is using this infrastructure, you can start at the top as citizen data scientists, right? People in everyday business trying to use AI in order to accomplish various different things. I mean, and they are looking for something which is more like Excel for them, right? I mean, this is every day they want to use AI in order to do their jobs. The next layer after that, in my view, are the data scientists in the enterprises, right? So every day they are coming to work, they are trying to figure out how to do better forecasting, how to do, for example, better yield management in their semiconductor infrastructure, or do better predictive maintenance in their pipelines, for example. And they would like to have a platform, a software tooling platform, where they can start from data, prepare that data, train their models, deploy their models, and manage them in production. It's a very different type of infrastructure than the citizen data scientist. And then you have what I call them the rocket scientists. These are people who are building the foundational model with trillions of parameters in order to build the next NLP model that they are trying to build. And their infrastructure requirements are very, very different. They are looking at thousands of GPUs and TPUs and hardware accelerators, because the regular computing infrastructure today is not keeping up with what they need. They are also not just building this model, they also want to do inferencing at real time at very high volume. And it's a very different kind of requirement than other two layers in the user stack that we think about.
And Prat, you're the EVP Cloud and General Manager for Cloud at Cloudera. What about, I would like to discuss with you two things, the cloud and maybe the data. Yeah. What are the key issues and the key challenges and the key goals, I would say, to develop them and deploy them?
Thanks, François. Just before answering, I would say it's a pleasure to be here, and it's great to be part of the Global Summit. Also, my first time in Riyadh. It's great to see the fantastic progress and growth that's happening here with the bold vision. Cloudera, just as a very quick introduction, is a leader in a cloud data platform, which helps do data and analytics for enterprises. Our observation is that about 60% of the challenges in doing AI is actually acquiring data. These are boring things, acquiring data, preparing data. So it's really important to construct a scalable infrastructure for AI, where if you can bring AI to data versus taking data to AI, it's a lot more scalable, because data comes from every place. Like Debanjan said, it could be pipelines. Yusuf mentioned, again, networking, the importance of bringing data from every place. So scalable infrastructure starts with a scalable data platform. There are two architectures we've seen recently, modern architectures, one called a data lakehouse, where you can bring all kinds of data, structured or unstructured, in a single platform. and build a pipeline, like Debanjan said, everything from ingestion to analytics to data modeling and machine learning. The second thing that has come up is data meshes, so that citizen data scientists can directly be empowered to get access to data. There's a better collaboration between IT and line of business to be able to enable that. So I think the important things I would say is invest in a scalable infrastructure. Like Yusuf said, computing is going to grow. You don't want to re-platform all the time, so invest once and then grow. There's a good African proverb I heard about here, right? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, work together, right?
No, very good. And so Debanjan mentioned the need to see the different types of populations and so on, and the evolution as well of data science. So Jean-Luc, I would like to come back to you. And Jean-Luc, sorry, you're the CTO of Accenture Applied Intelligence. How do you see the future of data science there?
The data science is morphing in terms of the profile of people that are going to be involved. I recommend, by the way, to follow and look at the work that has done by Professor Chris Ray out of Stanford, who is one of the foremost thinker in that domain. But roughly, if I look at the data scientists in the coming years, there are going to be less generic data scientists and more industry-focused data scientists. You cannot really do good data science in the domain if you're not intimately familiar with the domain. You have to be a subject matter expert. So to use energy as an analogy, well, when I talk about this before, I showed a picture of what you think of a data scientist, a person with a lab coat and a blackboard and formulas. And I said the new data scientist has a hard hat, just like a worker on an oil platform, because it knows. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is linked to data, because as many of my colleagues have said, data is what makes AI happen. Right? No data, no AI. That's a very simple formula. And the emergence of the data engineer, right, as an important profile. So going forward, the fundamental research in AI is going to be mostly focused by academia and what we call digital native, the Amazon, the Microsoft, and the LinkedIn of this world. But the bulk of carrying AI and analytics in general will be data engineers in very, very large number. You can't find them right now. Right? They're in such demand, you cannot find them. So I recommend somebody looking for a job, learn data engineering.
Become data engineer.
And then data scientists will become really specialized in the domain that they work.
And this is something we see, and I used to spend a lot of time and live in China, where I can see what I call now vertical AI ecosystems emerging. And therefore, the question is not even at a company level, but more at an industry or ecosystem level. But what is interesting in what you say as well is that we said, and you mentioned, you said the need for connectivity, for network, and so on. So I will turn now to Walid, who is the CEO of National Grid. And I would like to better understand what's the role of a company like yours in supporting the AI tech infrastructure to help other companies adopt AI.
Okay, thank you, Francois. Good morning, everyone. There is a very important competitive advantage for SEC Group, including National Grid, that we are covering, the whole area of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we are available everywhere, serving more than 10 million customers, and we are serving more than 13,000 locations within the kingdom. So our network is available everywhere, and this is already equipped with the very latest technology, cutting-edge technology in the information, communication, metering, monitoring, and so on. So we believe that we are providing the necessary environment or necessary infrastructure for the investor in the field of AI. Meanwhile, also, we are always trying to keep a good communication and effective communication with our stakeholder and customer in order to better understand they better understand our need, and also we better, convey them with our requirements, and so this will definitely help improving AI services within the kingdom.
That's good. So let me turn now to Suresh. Suresh, you're the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer at Honeywell. And as you are transforming Honeywell from an industrial, I would say, to a software industrial, what are your main challenges, and what are the main challenges that you see at your customers?
I think, first of all, thanks for having me over here. And just to give you a perspective, in Honeywell, we are a 136-year-old control system company. What do we do as a control system company? You sense, you analyze, and you respond. You take action. That's what we've been doing. The last 15 years, we virtualized our control system. What do we mean by virtualizing the control system? We took the hard boxes and maybe brought the cloud adoption in place, and then we virtualized our control system. Moving forward, it's all going to be autonomous control. That's where the whole AI conversation gets very, very interesting. So when we work with our customers, interestingly that you're actually starting to realize that it's no more you're selling a subsystem product that they can actually take and use it. You're starting to bring in a conversation around data around your product, ability to really extract, ingest, train your model. And as you're training the model, you're not only training the model, you're also making changes to the process around it. Because when we actually fit our systems in a plant operation or a commercial building, you have to optimize. This end-to-end optimizing process, system, capability, and around the technology that we're talking about is a very interesting evolution. We are starting to see that you may actually have two types of customers that I deal with. One, who knows everything else spec'd out exceptionally well, who are saying, let's go innovate together from tech stack down to how do we really get the optimized solution out. There are some customers are saying, suggest to us, how do we get from where we are today and where we get there? So it's an interesting evolution, and we are working with all kinds of customers at this junction.
Yeah, so that's good, and you are in this sector. I would like now to turn to Baiju, who's the head of AI, ML, and data analytics at TD Bank Group. And taking the perspective of, I would say, a more traditional industry, I would like to discuss with you how you play, what are the issues you see or the challenges you face in the developing the tech infrastructure, and in particular, how do you deal with legacy? Because many of our, let's say, of the people here are saying, okay, that's good, but we have already IT systems, we have all of that. What do we do with AI? Should we start greenfield, brownfield? So what would be your recommendation?
Yeah, thank you, first of all, for having me here. A pleasure to be in the kingdom, and for a very warm welcome as well. So that's a good question, because I think the promise of AI first world is easy to make and really hard to execute and deliver in the real world. And I live those challenges on a daily basis. So first, I think what the folks here on this panel have mentioned. I don't think there's any leapfrogging into this AI first world. You have to go through a basic digitization of your business. You have to have the right data infrastructure. You have to have a modern compute infrastructure before you start going all in on AI. And I've often seen organizations make those mistakes in terms of making investments which might be mistimed. Now, that's not to say everything has to happen sequentially, but it's to say that you have to make some of those basic investment decisions early on, together with your AI decisions as well. The second challenge, I think, and I've discussed this with a number of panelists here, and it's a strong agreement, is that AI at scale is as much about AI as it is about software engineering. And we forget that. And we build large teams of data scientists, and I've seen the evolution. Data scientists used to come from primarily a computer science background back in the day, and this has evolved into data scientists can come from any field. But to build systems at scale, you need to have an engineering first mindset as well. And so making those investments together with your AI investments is very critical for long-term success within an enterprise. Third is, I think, again, something that this panel has touched on, and a previous panel here as well, which is how do you develop AI technologies in a user-centric way? And especially in a large enterprise, you have a large workforce which is going to interact with that AI. And so it's about thinking, what else do you need around AI to make it really work? Do you need your domain experts? Do you need your IT integrators who are going to take that to the last mile? Who's going to support this on a daily basis? Most of your machine learning scientists are not going to be the ones picking up the phone when the prediction or the inference engine goes wrong. So just thinking about that entire ecosystem is what I call a product-first thinking. Is a user-centric thinking is thinking of AI as a product. You're shipping a product, and what do you need? Everything you need around the product, you need to build into those teams as well. And then specifically around the challenges of dealing with legacy systems, I think that's again where software engineering mindset comes in really handy. Having an API-first strategy as an example to make sure that your legacy systems can talk in a consistent way to your central AI engines. That's part of infrastructure and platforms, but that's also part of your internal team's mindset in terms of how do you architect your systems. Because as much as we'd like to think there's one silver bullet platform that's going to support all the personas we need to support, that doesn't exist, and we need to kind of architect that from the ground up. So those are some of the layers that I think about when building out AI capabilities within a large enterprise.
No, that's very good. And you said in your the answer of your first question, you said, but be careful about the future of AI, because at the moment everyone is very excited, but we might not be. Could you elaborate a bit on that?
I came from I would say legacy school. I've been running IT for the last 30 years for Aramco. And I could appreciate the robustness of the vehicle that will carry the AI product to the customers. If that vehicle breaks, then no matter how good we are in developing our talent to be a great scientist or getting the data or even creating the algorithm. I was just talking just before the panel, and I'm glad I'm receiving the same I guess, perception about infrastructure, because derailing the benefit of the AI would come from not knowing what's coming ahead of us. My concern is that with the vibe of the AI and with the young talents who are really excited, and we're really proud of ladies and gentlemen here in this forum who will make it happen, they do not have the expertise to run it at the scale. Everybody says infrastructure is a commodity. Yeah, it's a commodity. But you need expertise to make sure this commodity runs every time, all the time, and secure. Cybersecurity is very important.
It's very good.
Okay, let's give examples. We build algorithm that could save you $100 million, but a single breach on your system would cost you hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes.
That not to mention that the reputational damage that you have. So we really have to start building in our youth mind. It's good to be excited. It's good to be basically ahead of the game in terms of that, but you need to start training yourself, because they are the one who's going to train, not us. We're going to be retiring by then. They are the one who's going to train, so I would advise all organizations to put some effort on this.
And I think that's a very good point, and the question of the AI at scale and the impact of AI at scale, I think is really undervalued and underestimated. So maybe I propose that we move now more to the trying to refocus on the other infrastructures, as Jean-Luc, you mentioned. And maybe I would like to address to, and you will choose the order, maybe Debanjan, Jean-Luc, and Suresh, on your experience with incumbent and the additional challenges. We've touched some of them, but are there some challenges that you would like to insist on? So you mentioned people, talents, any other, or?
So it is, overall the culture of the organization, right? I mean, you can introduce AI into an organization, but if there is not a cultural change in terms of both adopting the technology, adopting the change, doing the change management the right way, changing the processes, educating everybody and upskilling people in terms of what they need to do. If we don't do that right, I think the outcome is not going to be what we expect. And that I see every day. And if you look at organization, they're at various different levels of maturity with respect to where they are in adopting AI. And it is important to put that in perspective and take steps to make sure the organization is coming along with the technology. Otherwise, we are going to be not in a very good place.
And I fully agree with that. There was in the New York Times, let's say a couple of months ago, an article saying no code, low code will happen, it's fantastic, and so on. I wrote a paper saying, are you sure? Because if you are not ready to accept it, it can be a disaster. It can kill your company because people don't fully understand the fact that as AI is always learning, basically you are facing something that is right at some point can be terrible the day after because it was trained on bad data or it's not fitting with the right context. So you mentioned that point. Any other, Suresh, Jean-Luc, or Suresh?
I guess I want to add on what you just said. The secret of scaling AI is change management, and change management, right? Those are the three parts. But in the change management, what is sometimes people forget, it has to be from the top all the way to the bottom. People will not trust AI or analytics in general if you give them an answer without telling them or educating them as to why. Right? How did we get to that answer, and why are we believing that answer as opposed to what you know from what I would call your tribal knowledge, which is what everybody has naturally. So in the change management, do it at the board level and do it at the factory level. And make sure that whatever AI is brought in, you have the total explainability available. There are some domains of an industry where they're not going to use it if you can't explain it to the nth degree. Healthcare is a great example. Right? If you cannot explain the model that goes into a pacemaker, trust me, you're not going to install that in the patient. Right? Yeah. So I think that's part of change management, that education, and also the explainability associated with
if I may add, for the scalability, let's not forget about balance between agility and scalability. Because if you don't design your algorithm with a scalable in mind, right, because if you want to be agile and quick deploying for the first run, then you will have a problem at the end when you scale up. So agility and scalability has to be balanced from the beginning, not at the end.
Yeah, and I think that you are right. And there are many trade-offs between, you mentioned explainability versus accuracy. And because I think that we need to remember that in a company, the objective is not to have the best AI system, but to have the best output from the human plus AI system. And I think that's so. Suresh, you wanted to say something, and then
I want to give a practical example. I think we speak a lot in AI around teaching the machine, but there is also an element of teaching people who are dealing with the machine. A specific example: we have a new headquarters for Honeywell. We just opened up 2 years ago, and we built this entire software for driving optimization, energy optimization, and sustainability. So a week ago, me and the chief commercial officer went back and sat down and said, we deployed most of the software for energy optimization. What's the impact and value? We were shocked that we were actually expected 10% energy optimization, but it was less than 0.3% for the last 3 months. So we said something is fundamentally wrong. When you're starting to really break it down, you're starting to realize that the way the facility manager is loading the people in each of the floors are not thought through well. They've not taken the controls of the thermostat controls from the people because everybody are making their own changes. The third one is people have not really understood how to really digest the data. Then you're actually starting to go back and look at it. Every person in a building, from a facility manager to the building manager to the occupants in each of the floors, have a role to play. So now we are actually coming and saying a building is a physical thing and your AI software is a digital thing. There is a physical digital loop. If this continuous learning doesn't happen, and if you don't reinforce your software every single day, as a company, we are actually starting to just say a software development cannot happen in isolation. Now this has to happen in sync. And that learning is huge, which I believe either you're driving Tesla or you're going to be building more AI for the new buildings and infrastructure. This continuous loop called learning cycle is a critical element. I think do not forget teaching people, because teaching machine is fine.
We'll come back later on this question about how do you organize, because how do you make these data scientists as well closer to the business.
That's right.
While keeping their capabilities. So we will have a debate on that. Prat, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, just two quick points on change management as well as scalability, which Yusuf brought up. On change management, I would say AI is not always about the cool, like the robot that serves you coffee and, right? The best AI, the most pervasive examples of AI that we've seen with hundreds of companies has just been a smarter business process. And it's done best, it's invisible, right? And so like coming back to that loop, thinking through what's that business process, who's going to be the end user, how do they interact? A great example is spam filters for email use AI. Most people are not aware of it. If you look at fleet management, preventive maintenance, cybersecurity, there's many examples where it's invisible, it works, and you just continuously stay at it to make it better. The second point on scale and skills, operations people, DevOps, SecOps, CloudOps, all of these are skills we don't talk about, but they're supremely important to run, manage, scale, secure platforms. So we talk about data scientists, we talk about data engineers. The whole ops field is as important and hard to hire. So look for automated ways where all of those functions are also part of the platform or some kind of an offering, because 60% of the cost of running these platforms is actually in operations, not in cloud infrastructure or tooling on top.
No, that's true. And as you say, I like your point on saying, don't just look at the glamorous data scientists doing the fanciest thing. We all live with AI already, but there are really dirty things to do there. Maybe, because, and I think your point about automated, because talents or resources, people, is something very important, and you said that a part of it could be some automation of processes, for instance, but there are as well some other ways, one being about training, sourcing training, and maybe I will ask Baiju a bit, even if it might be a bit high level on you're in Canada and for a long time, maybe some lessons, because Canada is a fantastic place where they've been able to create a hub with AI, data science, data engineers. So how did they do that? And how is it useful to you?
Yeah, and very proud of Canada as a small country, what they've achieved. I mean, most of your audiences would know the epicenter of AI and where it all began was likely in Canada, large parts of it. And I think you can look at it at two levels. At a macro level, what governments can do and large public institutions can do, and you can look at a micro level as in terms of what organizations can do. So very quickly, the macro level, the story is quite simple, but really, again, really hard to execute. First, governments are the most patient and most forgiving investors. And again, investing early in sort of technologies or in bets that might or might not pay off is very important. So again, academics who we now know on first name basis, were no-knowns who were supported by the Canadian government for core research. No one knew that the breakthroughs were gonna happen. There was AI winters and the promise was big, but no delivery. But that was important. Once you see some of those bets starting to pay off, I think this is where the public-private partnerships become really, really important. When I look at the Canadian ecosystem, you had large investments from large institutions like the banks, TD, with the government in setting up institutes such as Vector Institute in Toronto, AMI in Alberta, Mila in Montreal. And this was about making sure that we can keep skills in Canada and we can continue to kind of feed that flywheel that we had created. And that was really, really important. And I heard earlier that Aramco is doing something similar with the AI corridor, and those are the kind of things that you really want to focus on. The third is, new company formation, which is the stage that we're in. You need a really rich ecosystem of new company formation with your large enterprises to start then creating that really, really rich ecosystem of talent that continuously feeds at every level of the organization, whether that's a startup or a scale-up or a large enterprise. So those were the three components at a macro level that really, really helped us. At a micro level, again, I think we've seen the evolution of data sciences from a handful of computer scientists trying to figure out statistics to now data scientists. Anyone can be a data scientist, and we hire thousands of data scientists, not dozens, which is the big transformation that has happened. So as an organization, you really need to think hard about what is a mix of skills that you want to train, what you want to develop internally, what's a mix of skills that you want to attract, do you have the right brand to attract it? Are you solving the right problems? I think the one thing that I hear very often is that we are very enthusiastic about hiring data scientists and creating playgrounds for them where they get to play with technologies, but nothing really impacts the customer, nothing really impacts the shareholder. And making sure that you're working on things that can have real world impact is tremendously important. I'd rather hire fewer people and do that versus hiring a lot of people and giving them a lot of play problems. So I think that some of those thinking in terms of how do we set the right problem space, how do we upskill our talent as well, and how do we recognize the various personas that is now encompassing data sciences, I'd say.
No, and what you say and what Canada did is very important because I remember from my strategy lesson that Michael Porter in 1990 wrote that the competitiveness of a nation depends on the capacity of its industry to innovate and upgrade. I think that this question about making sure that you have startups or scale-ups is one thing, but then the adoption of the traditional industry, adoption of AI, the right way is really critical as well.
I'll add one more thing, which is having a very forward-looking immigration policy as well, because it's not just the talent you have, it's the talent that you can import and attract as well, which is very, very important.
Absolutely. Suresh, you touched, I don't know if it was Suresh or Debanjan earlier on, the question about the organization and how you work with this organization. Should you centralize data scientists? Should you put them in the business units? What are the way you would look at it or your clients look at it? And maybe I can open it to, let's say, Youssef as well or Walid. I don't know.
Maybe I'll start with the last comment, which I think is an excellent comment, is are we solving the right problem? Okay. So when we look at developing our talents, we have to also think of where we place those talents. We all agree that talent is scarce, and we need to build them. In Aramco, for example, we are approaching this in two fronts. One, we are bringing a reputable university in camp, part of our hosted program, to deliver a master's degree in data science and AI. And we're also hiring the highest grade in high schoolers and putting them in the most reputable university around the world to get a BS. So while we are building the talents, I think the best way is to centralize the AI data scientists and the execution agents to work on the most sophisticated artificial intelligence deliverables, but not to leave the business empty-handed. That's why also we have adopted citizen development, where we equipped our users, our business units, with tools that they can do a basic AI for the time being. Once we have the talent pool is built, then I'll go to the question is, are we solving the right business unit? So we will be distributing them for two purposes. One purpose is to put them with the business units for a couple of reasons. One is to help the business units to define the challenge that will make a difference to the shareholder, think of a game changer opportunities, and then work backward with the data scientists that will put them with the execution agents who will work on the complex artificial intelligence and bridge the language barrier between the business units and the technical execution agents. So I think thinking deeply on how to distribute data scientists and AI is very crucial to get the ultimate benefit from the AI that definitely will touch the bottom line, touch the shareholder interest.
So if I can add to that, we work with a lot of customers. It really depends on the maturity of the organization with respect to adopting AI. What I've seen a lot of people, when they start with one or two data scientists solving one or two business critical problems, showing the value. Then you create a center of excellence, hire 10, 20, 30 data scientists, build that organization and have them work with various different business units. Then you automate the whole thing as much as possible so that you can make them more productive, put some of the data scientists in various different business units along with the COEs so that they can scale it. And ultimately, you'd like all the business users also to have the skills so that you can essentially make it pervasive within the organization. So these levels of maturity and how you expand that really makes a huge difference in terms of the value that you get.
If I may just comment to this one caution, as putting data science in the business units, accessing your يعني databases and infrastructure, because again, reliability, availability, serviceability is not in their mind. So there's a very thin line between how much you give the business versus how much you protect the ultimate output of the AI. We have to be very careful on that.
If you allow me,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think we summarize, people think of centralized or hub and scope, right? It's hub with the spoke, right? As opposed to and the spoke. If it's and the spoke, it means you leave them alone. But if with the spoke, it's a collaboration that you
Exactly.
that goes both ways.
Exactly.
Right? That's how operationalization happens, by the way.
And there is also, a very important point already been highlighted by the gentleman, that the balance between the three main pillars of the any AI transformation journey: people, processes, and also the technology. There is a common mistake normally done by the company when they establish their transformation journey, that focusing on the technology in the very early stage, where they, after that, struggle with the implementation and the necessary enabler for this one. So the leading company, normally they start, defining the value they are trying to capture within their journey, then searching about the available solution, and then finally defining the best solution available to establish and to start their journey. I think with such, very systematic way to start or to establish this journey, they will be in a better chance to achieve their goals in this regard.
So, Adrian, you
I was going to add that on the comments we've already heard, which is a lot of people talk about traditional sectors emerging from their digital transformation. And I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of traditional organizations are stuck in digital transformation and are really struggling with it. And some of the comments we've heard we've seen examples where you can bring AI and apply AI to those problems that those organizations are facing today. And it's not about the robots, as you said, that are making the coffee. It's about the problems that they've got today. Cybersecurity is a great example, where we've been applying AI techniques in cybersecurity to improve the security infrastructure around the data of these traditional organizations. Makes a huge impact, and it demonstrates early on the benefit of AI to these organizations and gives you that foundation on which to build, as we've heard from a previous speaker. So I think it's important for traditional organizations to recognize that this is about applying AI to today's problems, solving today's problems, and then using that as a foundation on which to build.
So maybe, and we have 1 minute left, 90 seconds left, so you have 10 seconds each. If you have one trend in AI infrastructures that excites you and one trend that concerns you, so maybe in 2 words, Walid.
I think in the power system where technology are evolving, that will increase the complexity in the system, so AI could provide an amazing help through the solution. But also on the other hand, that the bias and the solution and application that could be also, a cost impact and also trust of your customer, then should be fully, considered during that.
I need to give it to Youssef if we want to be on time.
Okay. Machine learning and large language is fascinating me, and it's going to bring great results. That's what impressed me. What scares me, however, is how do we use them? Because misusing them will take us to bias, discrimination, and misled facts.
Jean-Luc.
What scares me is what I see with many clients is death by POCs, right? Doing bunch of POCs, but never operationalizing. So do less, but do value. And what I like is the emergence of what's called supermodels, which are really transformers, is a technical term for it, that are models that are really going to make a huge difference in things like voice.
So what I'm keen to see is the pushing of AI out to the edge of our networks, into the sensor systems and so on, which will help to address the challenge, which is how do you get the data and manage the data volumes.
So I'm going to steal Suresh's thunder. What's exciting to me is AI on the edge and distributed systems. What I'm concerned about is we're in a privacy-constrained world, and how do we think through that?
I'm excited about how much data is there. I'm also concerned about how much data is there.
Debanjan.
I think the democratization of AI could be a huge equalizer, and that I'm really, really excited about. I think availability of data is a big problem, and that can make a huge difference depending on who has access to data.
And Suresh?
AI is a magic, but concerns are responsible AI. That's what we have to build for the future.
So thank you, everyone. So thank you for this very insightful panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.